and in the Bolan region, as well as the inability of the Pakistan's political parties to come together at a time of national crisis. This shows the complete breakdown of political consensus in a deeply polarized nation, and also note the absence of this coverage of this entire catastrophe and this crisis that's then gripped an entire nation, which is being spoken around the entire world, but not in Pakistan. They would rather show more cricket than perhaps coverage of this issue at the Bolan region. Now, in a candid conversation with American AI researcher and podcaster Lex Fridman, Prime Minister Narendra Modi expressed a firm stance on Bharat's fraught relationship with Pakistan. Citing years of bloodshed and violence as the backdrop for the ongoing tensions, PM Modi pointed out to how Pakistan's actions, despite the bloodshed, seem to serve its interests rather than fostering peace. He underscored that Pakistan had been actively engaged in a proxy war with us, supporting terrorism to destabilize Bharat. He further blamed Pakistan's terrorist mindset for differences between New Delhi and Islamabad, saying Pakistan was the epicenter of turmoil for the whole world. Modi recalled his 2015 visit to Lahore, a gesture aimed at fostering dialogue and goodwill, and despite the hostility from the other side, he reminded of his invitation to Pakistan's leadership to attend his swearing-in ceremony in 2014, signaling Bharat's readiness to engage in diplomacy. PM also emphasized that despite Bharat's attempts at peace, Pakistan's response was often one of hostility and betrayal. And in a deadly ambush, the Baloch Liberation Army targeted Pakistani army buses in Noshki, killing at least 90 Pakistani military personnel, according to the group's claim. The attack marks another significant escalation in the ongoing insurgency in Balochistan, where the BLA has waged a violent campaign for greater autonomy and independence from Pakistan. On the 11th of March, launching another assault at the Pak army, the BLA hijacked the Jafar Express in Bolan, taking control of the vehicle and taking control of the train, holding 214 hostages. They freed all the civilians, but the BLA also claims to have executed most of the army hostages or the soldiers who it held hostage, further intensifying the group's brutal actions in the region. Now, the hijacking of the Jafar Express, a passenger train travelling through Balochistan, has escalated tensions between Pakistan's military and the Baloch Liberation Army. And according to Baloch Liberation Army statement, the group executed the military hostages following failure of negotiations. The Pakistani military, however, stated that the operation was successfully concluded, with security forces taking control of the situation and rescuing all hostages. The BLA also further accused the Pakistan civil establishment of ignoring their ultimatum, leading to the escalation of violence and hijacking. The Pak military confirmed that the hijacking resulted in the tragic death of 21 passengers and 4 soldiers during the operation. According to BLA, 12 of their militants were killed during the confrontation with Pakistani forces. The Pak military reported that 33 BLA militants or rebels were killed in the operation, claiming a decisive victory over the insurgent group. The BLA accusing Pakistan military of refusing to enter into negotiations. In contrast, the Pak military emphasized that all remaining passengers were safely rescued. The increasing frequency and intensity of attacks by TTP or Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, placing immense pressure on Pakistan's security forces, in addition to the ongoing insurgency by groups like the Baloch Liberation Army. These attacks are part of a broader trend of escalating violence and that is destabilizing various regions of Pakistan. Pakistan stands on the cusp of balkanization at various ends, be it the Khyber Pakhtunkhwa region, or be it which is also referred to as Pakhtunistan or Balochistan, and even down in the region of Sindh, where many are upset with the decisions being taken from the Sunni Punjabi clan or the group of politicians who are trying to dominate the discourse. Let's look at these. Jan 27, 2025, Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan launches a complex and coordinated attack on military garrison in Pishin in Balochistan. The attack resulting in significant casualties and further highlighting the growing threat posed by the TTP across Pakistan's western regions. On March 4th, TTP carried out a massive assault on a brigade headquarters in Bannu, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa. The attack targeted one of the most strategic military installations in the region. 9th of March 2025, another devastating attack. The TTP carried out an IED blast in Bajaur, Khyber Pakhtunkhwa, which killed 3 soldiers and wounded another. On 16th March, TTP ambushed a Pakistan army unit in Sadda and Kurram, resulting in the death of 9 soldiers, with a direct result of its past strategies of using militant groups as proxies for geopolitical gain. Is Pakistan currently ensnared in a web of its own making? Well, while the country's security apparatus has fought against terrorism for years, its actions in the past have created a volatile environment that continues to spiral out of control. Lieutenant General Satish Dua, former GOC 15 Corps, joins us. We're also hoping that Major Yasir Janjua, security analyst from Pakistan, should also join us. But General Dua, namaste. Thank you for your time. Your quick thoughts on what we are seeing unfold in Pakistan. You know, oftentimes the Pak media, the Pak government, the ISPR is the first to call out and name India and RNAW's involvement in it. But is this more of their own making? Are the snakes in their own backyard coming to bite them?
Anand, I think as an army officer, the first thing I would say, I'd hate to be in the shoes of Pakistan Army today. It's a beleaguered nation. And we know that Pakistan as a nation, it's all about its army. They are having problems with the Baloch of the kind of magnitude that which is still unfolding. They've been having the problems with Pashtun in the Pashtun area. They have problems politically. They have a front with Afghanistan, which they thought that will be their strategic depth. They have their issues. They're pushing in terrorists in J&K. That's another front for them. So, all in all, I do not envy them. What is happening now, and what you were mentioning, that there haven't been proper statements coming out of the establishment, or whatever is coming down is toned down figures. Well, the figures will vary. Whether it's their claims or the Baloch claims, I understand the truth will be somewhere in between. But the fact that Balochistan is now, we are seeing an uptick in the last few years, which started initially, the uptick started. The problem has been festering for 7-8 decades, but it started when the CPEC corridor was being made and Gwadar port was being developed, because they felt more and more exploited and they're not getting enough paybacks, that is the Baloch people. Then when Taliban returned to Afghanistan, we saw another enhancement in their activities because they were emboldened. They also have camps, that is Baloch rebels, BLA, etc., have camps in Afghanistan, and they're getting support from there. We also see that they're getting more sort of encouragement by seeing the beleaguered political status in Pakistan. PTI issue hasn't died down. Their uneasy coalition is holding on against a popular upsurge. So all in all, and we know it's Pakistan Army that actually underwrites the polity. So all in all, they are in a very beleaguered and a very hard place right now.
Now, but are you willing to concede that there is a total failure, General Dua, from the Pakistan military? This is huge embarrassment, because this follows within a year of what happened with the Dara-e-Bolan, again BLA. Look at the TTP, how it continues to attack and pilfer and really hurt the Pakistan military establishment there. Do you believe this is a huge tactical error? How is it that so far away in the middle of nowhere, and at a stretch and at a passage which the Pakistan military always knew is going to be a security issue, they were able to, organize, coordinate, strike, and then also hold control? And there are eyewitnesses who are civilians who have come out and said it's the BLA who released us, totally countering the claim that the Pakistani military was saying कि हमने जाके छुड़ाया.
Absolutely.
And if they could secure the release of the civilians after storming the tunnel, then they should have been able to secure the release of all their soldiers. Now they have got 200, and the blood of 214 soldiers is on the Pakistan military establishment's hands also then.
True. This particular operation, in the aftermath of the train hijack, I think that is something that Pakistan Army will not be able to live down, because it shows their reactions were late. In fact, their intelligence was perhaps very faulty, because to execute an operation at this level in an area where they have always expected trouble, After all, this is the only train that goes there. I mean, this train has been, or this railway line has been attacked several times. And yet they have failed to take measures. I mean, I am now seeing it as a military officer. They have failed to take adequate measures to protect this line of communication, this very vital line of communication. They have attacked in such numbers. It is not a small attack. And then their reactions. Their reactions were, I would say, too little, too late. Like Pakistan, the official statements may play it down, but there are so many videos doing the rounds. Not only civilians speaking, like you said, there are a couple of soldiers who spoke out, and those videos are doing the rounds on social media, in WhatsApp groups, etc. So that soldier is talking about it. I remember a soldier from Punjab says, we don't want Punjabis to come here. I mean, the Balochi rebels have said, we don't want Punjabis to come here. We are okay with Pashtuns coming here. Saraiki is coming here. I understand Saraiki is a couple of districts over there. I hail from side myself. So, all in all, I think it will be a blot on Pakistan army operationally or in tactical terms.
But the overall, how are we going to do, General Dua? How would you see the Prime Minister's message? Major Riyasat Janjua is also joining us now. How would you read the PM's message? That time and again, and in this, he's been quite candid, that I extended a hand of friendship. I was ready to reset the equations, but they just seem to be too obsessed with their proxy war. So then we had to deal with them in a manner they would understand.
All right. I'll try not to repeat exactly what the PM said because that is all over the media. But I mean, when he started from the partition, won't go into that. But I mean, I'll just make one point, extending on what Prime Minister said, because he was covering his term as Prime Minister. I'd go further to say, when Prime Minister Vajpayee went to Lahore to extend their hand of friendship and normalize relations, what we got in return was Kargil after a few months. When Prime Minister Modi went in 2015 and made an unscheduled halt and met Nawaz Sharif, the PM Nawaz Sharif, then we got Pathankot in return. Pathankot terror attack took place just after that. Thereafter it was Uri. So all in all, I think Prime Minister's message or Prime Minister's sentiment of saying that whenever we've extended the hand of friendship, they haven't responded in kind.
Major Janjua, your response? Is Pak caught in its own web of terror? Is the military establishment, Pakistani establishment, willing to give up this method? Or are they going to continue to walk down this path? Are they going to eventually get obsessed with Pakistan rather than with Hindustan?
Anand, first and foremost, these political statements that your Prime Minister is making or anybody is saying, I can give 10 such statements and I can give you evidence of 10 such things. So what you're talking about is you're trying to put a blame on Pakistan, whereas epicenter of terrorism for one moment, somebody who understands English must understand that we are the biggest victims of terrorism. So how can we be the perpetrators of terrorism? The perpetrators of terrorism are sitting on our eastern border, who have been continuously doing this. You guys have been doing this since 1947. You have not accepted the state of Pakistan. Please admit it. You don't accept it, admit it at least. You don't accept it, but you don't say it and continue to dismember Pakistan. You did it in 71. You tried to do it in 65. You did it in 71. You've been continuously doing it. Now, in 1974, we were not the ones who went and blasted the nuclear device. You did it first. In 1998, you were the ones who did it first. So we had to reciprocate it. So every time.
Why do you have to reciprocate? Why do you have to reciprocate? Who attacked in 1971 first? Design. Who went back with 90,000 prisoners of war? Who attacked Balochistan in October 1947? Who entered Balochistan? Who entered and captured it forcibly, Major Janjua? Sir, who entered in Kargil? Who came across on this side, disguised as shepherds and militant outfits, Major Janjua? Their ID cards are still there with us. You didn't even collect your dead. We buried them, sir. You want to come and see the graves? We'll get you a visa. I will make a special request for you to come and see the visa and at least salute those soldiers who were buried in ignominy, sir. But at least with respect. That's the situation, sir. That's the situation. I don't want to, sir.
You are not going to listen.
Major Yasir Janjua, you have peddled your wares as someone sandwiched between Hindustan and Afghanistan. You've gone ahead and peddled yourself to the highest bidder. That's what the military establishment of Pakistan has done. You've gone ahead and groveled in front of the Americans when they wanted to use you, and then you hosted Osama bin Laden in your own backyard in Abbottabad. And then when he was neutralized and the Americans put you on the FATF grey list, you started traveling to Beijing, and then you gave off your own land, your own land that you claim that is yours, you have given it to them. Land that you have occupied, you have given it to them. Land that doesn't belong to you, that is sovereign territory of Bharat, you have given it off to them. And then you have the gumption and teeth to come and sit down and lecture me, sir. Please look at your own backyard today.
Anand, you have to let me talk.
Sir, you have given state protection to wanted terrorists. Proscribed terrorists have state protection in your country, and you are calling yourself holier than thou, Major Janjua. Sir, I have to move on. I have to move on for the moment, sir. But if this is how the Pakistan military establishment is going to be, that they have not yet allowed the ghost of 1971 to settle, the 90,000 chudiya pehen ke ghar aaye hain still rankles, sir, then that's a lesson, sir. And now, sir, you continue this proxy war, you will be balkanized, sir. The people have had enough. People have had enough. People of Pakhtunistan are happy on their own. They never signed up for partition in the first place. Khan Abdul Ghaffar Khan is guarantee to that. The people of Balochistan wanted their freedom. They are a guarantee to that. The people of Sindh, all those who left Hindustan for Pakistan and who you pushed down to Sindh, who are still being called muhajirs, they are also revolting. Now you have a situation in your hands, sir. Sir, I did not want to be provoked, but your utterances, it's like in denial. How can you be in so much of denial, sir, of what the reality that surrounds you? You have a university of jihad in Pakistan. It's called Pakistan, and you have a university of jihad. Nowhere in the world, nowhere else in the world is there a university of jihad. It's there in Pakistan. Are you proud of it, sir? Are you proud of it? That's what I'm trying to say. I've got to move on for the moment. Thank you, Major Janjua. I've got to move on for the moment. Big news before we carry on. Prime Minister Narendra Modi has met the US Intel Chief Tulsi Gabbard. These are pictures coming through. He's scheduled on a, there it is, and I think he is giving her water from the Kumbh. That is water from the Sangam, the Triveni Sangam, the waters of the Sangam which he had carried with him even to Mauritius. I think Prime Minister Narendra Modi is presenting Tulsi Gabbard with that, and she has also now offered a gift. Now let's try and see what that gift is. Oh, it's a Rudraksha Mala. So she knows, so she's very insightful that she's seen the Prime Minister chant regularly using a Rudraksha Japamala as it is called. And so she has gifted him a Japamala made out of Tulsi bead. She's a Krishna Bhakt herself and is associated with the International Society of Krishna Consciousness. She believes the Bhagavad Gita is the book that is her guide to life and the principles that Krishna extolled on the battlefield to Arjuna. She's spoken about that earlier in the day in an interview. So as Prime Minister gives her the waters of the Triveni Sangam, Tulsi Gabbard returning a return gift is a Tulsi Japamala that she has presented to Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Let's get a move on now. Despite past tensions with China, Prime Minister Narendra Modi also favouring dialogue over discord and said differences between Bharat and China were natural but stronger cooperation was in the interests of the two neighbours for global stability. In a podcast with Lex Friedman, the Prime Minister emphasised that both Bharat and China should engage in a healthy and natural competition. He added that competition is natural but there should not be conflict. Disputes should not or differences should not lead to disputes. Now, instead of discord, PM Modi advocated for open communication and dialogue, which he sees as the only way to build a stable, cooperative relationship, adding that recent border tensions are being addressed to restore normalcy and highlighting the strategic importance of both Bharat and China and their relations. PM stressed that cooperation is not only beneficial but essential for global stability. This century belongs to Asia, and Bharat and China have to be together in this growth spurt to ensure that Asia prospers, and because of that there is global stability and the globe the world prospers. He highlighted the fact that Bharat and China once contributed over 50% of the world's GDP, showcasing their historical, economic and cultural influence. The PM further said that when two neighboring countries exist, occasional disagreements are bound to happen. And hours after PM Modi emphasized that New Delhi and Beijing should engage in healthy and natural competition while ensuring differences do not escalate into disputes, the Chinese mouthpiece Global Times welcomed PM's stance. And then you have Zhu Feihong also coming out and saying, yes, we do agree with what the PM has said, and we agreed and we accept his pragmatic approach. India building positive momentum, the PM has said, and they've also said that we would like to continue to take this entire conversation forward beyond, like similar to the Kazan Summit of Leaders. Let's go across to Ainar Tangen and Lieutenant General Satish Dua, who are with us. General Dua, your point of view on the Prime Minister's, candid acceptance that there are differences, but we have to ensure that they don't, escalate into dispute. This is the biggest hint of de-escalation, and can we expect the Dragon or the PLA to reciprocate?
Anand, not only in the last 5 years, but India and China have always maintained, they've always engaged at military level, at a working group level. There are different mechanisms. We have different perceptions of our LAC. But the fact also remains that for more than half a century, we have not fired a shot in anger. Our patrols have come across with each other, and sometimes the exchanges have gotten into a shouting match, sometimes they've gotten into a little more physical. And one such manifestation that we saw after this 2020, May 2020, when PLA tried to change the status unilaterally, there was a bigger standoff, and Galwan also happened, Pegong Solek, those operations happened. But at the end of it, we have continued to maintain that dialogue. And at different levels, at a military level, talks have been going on. There have been more than 20 such dialogues from then. We have sorted out differences at many flashpoints. In fact, last two bristling points that are left of Dapsang and Demchok are also have nearly been sorted out there, and patrolling is going on over there. Now, the Prime Minister has also made this statement. All he says is that we want to continue dialogue. Their differences will remain, and we have managed to coexist with differences for the last so many decades. And I won't repeat the Prime Minister's words. You brought out the gist that both these countries can do much better. Both are poised for much bigger roles, and we need to iron out our differences and continue to engage in trade with each other despite these differences. So I think all in all, with his chemistry with President Xi Jinping, let's hope that we will be able to resolve problems by discussion.
Ainar Tangen, your thoughts on this?
Well, I agree. Right now, it makes most sense. We're in a situation where Europe is declining economically. The U.S. is in turmoil. No one would have thought a few years ago that anyone would suggest that Canada could become the 51st state. So things have changed dramatically. And I think there's a realization that Asia is, this is where things are happening. This is where the wealth is moving. This is where you have manufacturing. And an Asian century is, cannot exist without India. This is something Xi Jinping said in 2013, that the key to the Asian century is India and China working together. And I think this is the first start. There's going to be disagreements. There are obviously, China's footprint has expanded. There has to be an understanding about areas of influence. But these things can be worked out at the table. As we've seen, it doesn't work when you try to do it on the battlefield in the Ukraine or in Gaza, places like this. So at this point, I think this is extremely positive, and I hope that both leaders will take this to heart and use this as an opportunity.
General Dua?
Yes, I totally agree with that. I was talking of tactical steps earlier, but the fact remains, and like my co-panelist said, We have seen this Russia, Ukraine. I mean, war only brings destruction. It is very difficult in today's world to achieve decisive victories. And I think rather than get embroiled in war, we can fall back, that is India and China can fall back on the fact that we have not exchanged a shot in anger for last so many decades, despite our differences, just because we kept engaging. And now, as we enhance the level of engagement, if we are looking at an Asian century, if both these countries set aside their differences, I think we've got a great potential to realize.
Well, let's hope that we can work together because we share an open border, a border that's not defined, two great nations who share an open border that's not defined. And significantly, there have been ingresses made on the other's sovereign territory based on claimed perception. Now, if this continues, then there will not be any friendship and animosity is only going to hurt both nations. I hope both understand this, and while each pushes their own nation's agenda, it's not at the cost of the other's interests. Thank you very much, gentlemen. Thank you for your time. Have to move on. I got big news coming through on Bangladesh also at this point. A potential crisis is brewing in Bangladesh army as a deep rift has emerged between the army chief and a top general, we are given to understand, raising concerns about external influences and the military's future role in the country. Now, at the heart of the tension lies a clash of ideologies and allegiances. Intelligence sources have revealed to CNN News 18, and that's been shared with us by our Group Editor Investigation and Security Affairs, Manoj Kumar Gupta, that reports say that Bangladesh army is divided in pro-ISI and pro-Awami League factions. There are reported differences between the army chief and the quartermaster general. The quartermaster general Fazur Rahman is reportedly under house arrest after a failed coup attempt. Fazur Rahman has earlier met Pak ISI chief Lieutenant General Asim Malik. Now the meet has been seen as a snub to the army chief Wakaruzzaman's authority. Fazur Rahman has been seen as pro-Islamist and pro-Pakistan. The army chief also seen as leaning more towards India. Intel sources further revealed that Army Chief General Wakaruzzaman has hinted at a potential coup in Bangladesh, expressing concerns over the country's stability and sovereignty. He warned of a potential threat to the nation's independence, implying that the country might be under external influence. And according to top intelligence sources, amidst the turmoil in Bangladesh, ISI Chief Lieutenant General Asim Malik's visit to Dhaka, the first such visit in decades, is raising security concerns for India. The visit, officially aimed at creating an intelligence sharing network, is seen as a sign of Pakistan's ambition in the northeast. Intelligence assessment suggests that the ISI seeks to exploit divisions within the Bangladesh army, which is split between those loyal to the Awami League and those aligned with Islamist factions. The ISI aims to cultivate ties with student groups capable of disrupting elections and potentially destabilizing the government. Sources further reveal that ISI reportedly wants to delay elections in Bangladesh and that the move is allegedly to keep Muhammad Yunus in office. The ISI chief was welcomed by Bangladesh Army Quartermaster General Lieutenant General Fazur Rahman. Now, Lieutenant General Rahman is believed to be close to the Islamist factions or the fundamentalist factions in Bangladesh and faces serious allegations related to destruction of evidence and enforced disappearances. Sources added that allegedly he wants to use Jamaat cadre to create unrest in Bharat. So clearly not all is well within the Bangladesh army. We're going to take a very, very short break. When we come back, it's a straight, candid conversation with a journalist who's been relentless in her pursuit of truth for nearly 4 decades, tracking the arms scandal that robbed Bharat. Chitra Subramaniam takes the right stand. Stay with us.
Madam Director, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity to speak with you.
It's great to see you.
This isn't the first time that you've been in India. You've come here before, but first time as Director of the National Intelligence. And we're looking forward to having you here and very happy that India is one of your first ports of call after you've assumed office. You've had your meetings with Mr. Doval and the other Intel czars. Can you tell us a little bit about the scope of intelligence sharing between India and the US?
Of course. So first of all, it's wonderful to be back in India. Really the tone and the relationship with our new administration under President Trump and Prime Minister Modi was set during Prime Minister Modi's visit to the White House. As you know, they are already good friends. It was a very great opportunity for them to share their joint vision for the U.S.-India partnership and the opportunity for us to continue to strengthen that partnership. So the meetings that I've had here with different Indian government officials and intelligence officials really is set on that foundation of how we can continue to integrate, how we can continue to strengthen our relationship, not only, of course, in my area of intelligence, but we're looking at commerce and trade and defense and education. There's nothing but opportunity that I see here in the U.S.-India partnership.
Well, you spoke about commerce and trade. Of course, there's a lot of anxiety among Indians about the tariff regime. Could you tell us which way that's headed? And in the pecking order of the U.S.-India relationship priorities, where does the tariff regime come in?
You know, what I have heard from the Indian government officials that I've spoken to over the last few days, there is an opportunity here to see more potential for the strengthening of our economic relationship. And I'm glad to see that they're looking at it in a more positive light than just one that is focused in a negative way when we look at tariffs. Obviously, Prime Minister Modi is looking out for what is in the best interests of India's economy and the opportunities available for the people of India. Similarly, President Trump is doing the same for the United States, our economic interests and the interests of the American people. So what I see as a great positive is that we have two leaders who have common sense and who are looking for good solutions. This direct dialogue happening at the very top in both of our countries, but also at the different secretaries and the cabinet members, is going to be key to lay down what that path forward really looks like. And I personally am excited because there's keen interest in the private sector here in India and in the United States to seek out those opportunities and to maximize them.
Ma'am, there's a lot of attention, of course, in the Asia-Pacific region for your visit here and the earlier port of call. I wanted to ask you, what is your assessment of the Chinese threat in the Asia-Pacific region, and do you see India as a key player to counter China?
You know, I've grown up in Hawaii and I've spent a lot of time in different countries across the Indo-Pacific region, and so understand at a deeply personal level the importance of this area for my country. And also, I think just as importantly, in understanding the complexities that exist within the histories of each of these countries, India and China, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, the United States, of course. So what I appreciate about President Trump and his approach and some comments that I heard Prime Minister Modi make recently is they are very practical and they are pragmatic and are looking to strike that balance that will allow us to hopefully prevent any kind of conflict. Obviously, as it relates to China, there are challenges. There are also opportunities. And we have two leaders of two very important countries who will play a very central role in taking on those challenges, resolving issues where they exist, and also maximizing any opportunities. The goal, of course, that we all share is to achieve peace, to increase prosperity, and to ensure stability and security for both of our peoples, but in the region as well.
Ma'am, when you took over, there was a lot of attention to what people said that you were a sharp critic of US forever wars and regime change wars. But you also said, and I'm going to quote you, you said, when it comes to the war against terrorists, I'm a hawk. How does the Trump administration see the repeated terror attacks on India from Pakistan?
You know, President Trump, through his first administration in the presidency, and it continues now, has been very clear about his commitment to defeating this threat of Islamist terrorism that has unfortunately plagued us, has and continues to pose a direct threat to the American people. But we see how it's been impacting people here in India, in Bangladesh, currently ongoing in Syria, Israel, and different countries in the Middle East. So this is a threat that I know Prime Minister Modi also takes seriously, and one where the leaders of our two countries will work together to try to identify and defeat that threat.
I'd like to pivot a little bit on the ISET initiatives. Do you see India and the US cooperating in the field of semiconductors and nuclear energy?
Yeah, I think there's not really any bounds to where the United States and India are looking to cooperate. And once again, we saw the initial vision and goals laid out by Prime Minister Modi and President Trump in their joint statement that came from the meeting that they had there in the Oval Office at the White House. So there are a lot of different elements, of course, with the private sector and with our respective agencies as it relates to commerce, to see where those opportunities are, to see where there may be barriers to access.
Namaste, and this is a conversation that I've been looking forward to have for a long time. She's been one of those who've been perhaps somewhere, a role model of sorts when it comes to the pursuit of truth. That you get behind a story, you don't let go. I think Boforsgate does justice to Chitra Subramaniam, as she says, a journalist's pursuit of truth. Chitra ji, namaskaram.
Namaskaram.
Thank you for
Namaskaram.
One, this book has brought you to Bharat, so that's good. The other thing is, there is this whole headline group which is at the back of the thing. In this, it is an Italian nexus established. There are industrialists, big names of our country which is there. But somewhere, let me first ask you, do you still remember that day and moment after the radio story in Sweden, when you first wrote your article about how Swiss banks work, etc., when you realized that you've stumbled onto something big?
If you're asking me,
Yeah.
So when the radio story happened, I was actually holidaying with my husband in Italy, and it was the last holiday of our lives because since then Bofors took over not just my life but my conversation as well. So I came back. We were in Firenze, and then we came back by train. By which time Kumi Kapoor had been calling. In those days, there was no WhatsApp, but there was just one landline. So she had
someone
left.
had to keep calling you continuously.
She left.
You write about it. Yeah.
Correct. She left a voice on the machine. So she said, Chitra, call me. So I called her back. I said, Kya, Kumi, what's going on? So she said, there is this story in the Swedish radio, and they have said that Indians and others have been bribed. So I wrote. That time I had no sources, and then I phoned a few bankers, and that first story had how banks work. It had nothing to do with Bofors, how do Swiss banks work, when secret account and all had been mentioned. But during that entire it was an Easter week, Easter break, all hell had broken loose when I went to the office because there were Reuters and then denials from India. It was like a big fat, sorry, I'm speaking a bit of Tamil with you, big fat thing, all, wires. Today people won't even know what a wire story is, but then on these telex machines and all, with denials from India all over the place. And on my typewriter was stuck a little piece of paper saying, is this trouble for Mr. Clean? It was a Reuters colleague, so Mr. Rajiv Gandhi was called Mr. Clean. So then I started making my calls. I knew people in Europe, I knew people. So to come back to your question, the other way, if you had asked, and I'm sure you will, is that did I know how big this was going to be? No, absolutely no idea. No, and I had, actually I write in the book that I didn't want to find out that Rajiv Gandhi was involved. I was heartbroken. Here was his prime minister, he stood like, he was an attractive, good-looking guy. He made that speech saying that he's going to take India to the next level. We will become, a superpower. I'm still ambitious of becoming a superpower. So he had given ambition wings.
Yeah.
And then to find this out was heartbreaking for me, Anand.
But when you got convinced that Mr. Clean was involved, from there, it's that was 1987? 87 is when this whole thing happened. The deal was signed just a year ago.
Just a year before.
Before that, March
Yes,
1986. So 87, you got to know that. We are now in 2025. When you see all that's transpired, what's happened to that Mr. Clean and what kind of accountability has happened so far?
But Mr. Clean shot himself in the foot already in 87. by saying neither me nor my family is involved, and nobody accused you, right? So that's such a giveaway, like a journalist, like why did you say that? Nobody accused you. So since then, it has been one downward slide. And to answer your question, what's happened since in all these years, good and bad, good and bad. I feel that the bureaucracy, and I write in my book that the bureaucracy is very powerful. And a lot of documents that show how the bureaucrats run this country.
Yeah, there is a huge number of bureaucrats in that letter that's been signed.
Yeah, the secret letter between the government of India. Look at the names.
It's there.
Look at the
this
names.
Is the page. Yeah,
Look at the names. Look who's who.
Names are there. S.K. Bhatnagar, P.K. Kartha, G.K. Arora and N.N. Vora. New Delhi, September 19, 1987.
These are not small bureaucrats. These are the country's top bureaucrats. And what does it say on top? Secret meeting.
Yeah, it says secret. Agreed summary record of discussions between Government of India and the Bofors delegation. This is the note.
Can you imagine that you're being tutored? Bofors is being tutored by the top bureaucrats in this country. You should say this, you should not say that. And the letter further says that we can't guarantee that whatever you tell the JPC will not become public.
Oh, so they say that also.
Yeah.
But interesting, the last part, point number 7 says reconfirmation that the stated payments of Swedish kroner 319.6 million represented the aggregate amount paid/payable to Bofors consultants in respect to the Indian contract. So there is this entire payout that is confirmed in this.
Yes.
And then there is a list of consultants also.
Yes.
That includes AE Services, Svenska, and then
that document says who got paid what, everything. Yeah.
Everything it says. And then this is the thing where Svenska got paid.
180, correct.
So there was a denial about that also,
Everything has been denied. And based on these documents, which were then transferred to India, the Swiss have altered their laws.
Yeah.
I mean, can you imagine the world's most difficult country to win an election? And this is the Department of Justice and Police. They say that our laws were not good enough. Bofors has showed that we need to plug the loopholes. So we are doing this. And so you're the only one saying that no payments has been made. Anand, the amount of destruction that went on with this. You destroyed the judiciary, the parliament, reputations, friendships, relationships. Everything was destroyed.
But why?
That is breathtaking.
Why? In today's day and age, if I were to say $5 million, $7 million, $10 million,
Nothing,
50 is not a big amount.
No.
And if it is 3% of $1 billion contract, it doesn't amount to that much. Also.
No, but who is saying it's 3%? That document itself says 18.5% if you look at the other pages. And in today's value, it will be some trillions,
Correct. So it was not a 3% or a 5%
No,
deal. Because somewhere they say 3%, 5%
3%
as a
was
commission
what
for
when
consultants
the radio story broke. So they did some back calculation and said, okay, now 3% is a winding up charges. When I told the arms dealer that, he laughed me out of the room. That he said was, this one is 12%. And see these arms dealers who are meeting in Geneva, and they're all there. Sorry, they have like a, they don't attack each other. They're all saying, hey, you take that, I take this, I take that. And then they protect each other.
So they cartelize.
And then they say, we don't have any reputation to protect. It's the politicians whose reputations have to be protected as long as the money is coming. And now, today, it's even legit. With Ukraine and with Gaza, it's all legit. And it's a ruthless cashier.
So let's dial it back. So things were going fine. You come back after a holiday, you write an article. There is somebody on the writer's desk who says, will this hurt Mr. Clean? Does it go up to Mr. Clean? You wanted to be in quasi-denial, saying, let's hope it doesn't go there. What happened thereafter? When was the first time you got your hands on a piece of evidence which said, oh my God, this is true? Did somebody reach out to you? Did any of the whistleblowers first come to you? When they came to you, what was the document that came to you first? When it all started?
Before this happened, I had Mr. George Fernandez and all sitting in my office and saying, Rajiv. So I said, where is the evidence? So then I started building slowly, and I was also pregnant. I was going to have my baby in August. And this was already in June, July. So we had a little time. So then I connected with who I call Sting, Mr. Lindström, without knowing what he was doing. Because I had friends, I made a lot of phone calls in Sweden. So this one I said, this person will know, that person will know, this person will know, that person will know, maybe not. And I had some friends also saying, try this, try that. So then I stumbled upon this person who then went on to become. Because by this time, the government of India had asked for the, another problem. They had asked for the Swedish National Audit Bureau to look into the money. Now the Swedish National Audit Bureau said the entire purpose of the investigation was to find out if the bribes had been paid.
Correct.
So the Swedish National Audit Bureau sent that document blacking out all the payments.
So the SNAB report.
SNAB report. So based on the blacked out report, Rajiv Gandhi says, I'm not involved. After which the prosecutor, Lars Ringberg, opened an investigation. So, at every step, Anand, at every step, we were shooting ourselves in the foot. By which time I said, hey, something is wrong here. Something is wrong, And, when the Swedish journalists came here, Mr. Parthasarathy, they stuck spies on them. This entire thing about foreign CIA, all that started. So why are you in denial? At every level there was denial. At the level of the bureaucrats, at the level of the parliament, the JPC said, gave them a clean chit. On the day the JPC gave them a clean chit, my document said no. I tried to keep a straight face, but then, somewhere, I say in the book, like, my father was in the UK, he came back and said, Chitra, Amma, you people build, you build India, of ambitions, and then I'm ambitious for the country, very ambitious, and I continue to be ambitious. I mean, I tell people I'll fight my battles inside. I'm not going to fight outside.
Outside.
No. So now, I want us to be a superpower.
We'll come to all of that. I just want to start from there. That, okay, you stumbled upon some information, you started putting out, and every time there was a claim, you had a contradicting proof in your hand.
Yeah, and when my stories began to appear, it looked like they were waiting for me to write to say something else.
So they would keep shifting the goalposts?
They would keep shifting the goalposts, and I got scared because at that time only Kumi Kapoor, there was no WhatsApp or anything. She would ring me and say, listen, you've beaten
That was a Sunday Mail, no, at that time?
Kumi was with the Mail. And then...
India Today.
I met her in India Today. Then she went on to the Express. So she was saying, every time I do a story, they say something else.
But she still wanted to publish what you wanted to...
Yeah. And we were thick as thieves. She told me everything about the plans to malign me. I would know everything.
When did it first become personal with you? When, in the sense, did they start threatening, slander?
That after Nikhil was born.
So within 3-4 months, no? You started this work in June, July, March, April?
April 1987. And then when Nikhil was born in August. Then subsequently, next year, year after that, it got really hairy.
What happened?
Oh, the windshield of my car was broken in a parking lot. Only my car was broken. My brakes failed. The middle of Geneva.
You were driving and... Then?
Then what?
Would you get calls? Did somebody tell you, back off, don't do this story?
We'll kill your son.
They said that?
And the time is not on your side. So I spoke to my Swiss and Swedish people and said, listen, this is going on. And they even told me two things. At one point, they said that the threat is live. It's a live threat. And Sten said that had you been in India, something nasty could have happened to you.
They would have bumped you off, done something.
So I used to go to my car park, and with a broom I used to do all this. And then my neighbors would say, what are you doing? I'm saying, just seeing you, there are some animals under my thing. And I would say, Bhoot Pisach Nikat Nahi Aave, Mahavir Jab Naam Sunave, Hanuman Chalisa.
But if they really, were they just trying to scare you off? Did they try to buy you off?
Yes.
I remember you said you found a suitcase.
They came with the suitcase.
They came with a suitcase.
The husband said, "Did you look at it?" I said, "No. At least I would have known what my value was." They came to my office.
They did. How many of them?
One.
And what did they say? This was what, 88, 89?
No, earlier.
Earlier?
87.
87. So when the threats were happening at that time?
No, threats came later.
Threats came later. When you refused the suitcase?
Suitcase
So
came
what
first.
happened? So what did they say?
A gift, a small gift, small gift for you.
And with no hint about what you were supposed to do with the gift?
Obviously, don't work on this. We'll take you around, do ladies' stories.
Who's this Miss Donovan?
Miss Donovan was putting money into my account from London.
And this is around the same time?
No, later. It's always one person who was trying to. It was always one person who was trying to get me.
One person?
One group of people who were trying.
One group of people.
So I didn't move, Anand. And that is because of Mr. Stan Lindström's faith in me. Not a word that I wrote, not one, did I have to retract, not one. And you know what that means for a journalist.
Yes.
10 years, not one.
So imagine the kind of pressure those who were publishing your work must have also felt. So
yeah, I was working with the Hindu then.
Yeah.
And in the beginning, Mr. Ram was good. Subsequently he succumbed as well. He didn't publish the most important piece of work was this.
That's a big claim you make about someone who's perceived to be the
so what can I do?
Good journalism, although after the Rafale fiasco,
so what can I do?
Seems to be a dent
I'm
there.
writing what I lived with.
So what happened there with
What
Mr.
happened
Ram?
there was these documents were being given to me by Mr. Stan Lindström, and he was giving them to me. He said several times that they were given to you. You could have been working for anyone, because he was my source.
Okay.
And
did you reveal your source? Okay, first we'll talk about
not
it later.
Immediately, subsequently.
Correct.
Yeah. So he said, what does the source want? That you won't fiddle with the information and you will work according to what the deal is with the source. More than that, the source doesn't want anything else. So he said, listen, all I want is that you should let me know a day or two, because he was taking his neck out.
Yeah.
And you should not you should tell me when the stuff is coming out, and you should not delay too much.
And compromise it somewhere.
Not compromise it.
Yeah.
So this, and as you know, we were looking at all the documents, and then the name Gandhi, trustee lawyer. Can you imagine finding the name Gandhi in a document? What it means.
And the Gandhi trustee lawyer.
So meeting in Geneva, Bob had met Gandhi trustee lawyer. This is Martin Ardbo's diary.
Yeah.
So I went to that building.
This excerpt, you've put this entire thing, no? This is the proof, right? This is the part where he says that he's actually met, he mentions the Gandhi trustee lawyer here. July 1987, Thursday, 2nd
So can you imagine how close it is to the 86? April was a revelation. So all this panic meeting was going on. So I went there, I went to that house. They threw me out. And so when this was given to me, and I said, Gandhi. So then with my husband and we said, okay, we need a blind test. So I called a friend and I said, listen, there's a name here, you better see what it is. So he said Gandhi. So it was Gandhi.
Yeah.
And all that is mentioned in the book.
Yeah.
And you sit on this for 1 year.
Yeah. This is that line, no? Where you want to be 100% sure that this actually is G-A-N-D-H-I.
G-A-N-D-H-I, yeah.
Correct, it is.
Now you sit on this for a year.
Mr. Ram sat on it for a year.
Yeah, at least.
He didn't put it out.
No.
Why?
What do I know? And when I asked, he said he's been advised to at least a year. I want to be correct on that. He said, he's been advised for the appropriate moment. So I said, who advised you? Why? And then in Mr. Arun Shauri's book, it's mentioned that this document was lying in his office in Chennai with a whole lot of other documents. Can you imagine, Anand, what this means to a journalist when something as critical as this doesn't get published?
Co-powered by
Madam Director, thank you so much for giving us this opportunity
Thank you.
to speak with you.
It's great to see you.
This isn't the first time that you've been in India. You've come here before, but first time as Director of the National Intelligence. And we're looking forward to having you here and very happy that India is one of your first ports of call after you've assumed office. You've had your meetings with Mr. Doval and the other intel czars. Can you tell us a little bit about the scope of intelligence sharing between India and the US?
Of course. So first of all, it's wonderful to be back in India. Really, the tone and the relationship with our new administration under President Trump and Prime Minister Modi was set during Prime Minister Modi's visit to the White House. As you know, they are already good friends. It was a very great opportunity for them to share their joint vision for the US-India partnership and the opportunity for us to continue to strengthen that partnership. So the meetings that I've had here with different Indian government officials and intelligence officials really is set on that foundation of how we can continue to integrate, how we can continue to strengthen our relationship, not only, of course, in my area of intelligence, but we're looking at commerce and trade and defense and education. There's nothing but opportunity that I see here in the US-India partnership.
Well, you spoke about commerce and trade. Of course, there's a lot of anxiety among Indians about the tariff regime. Could you tell us which way that's headed? And in the pecking order of the US-India relationship priorities, where does the tariff regime come in?
You know, what I have heard from the Indian government officials that I've spoken to over the last few days, there is an opportunity here to see more potential for the strengthening of our economic relationship. And I'm glad to see that they're looking at it in a more positive light than just one that is focused in a negative way when we look at tariffs. Obviously, Prime Minister Modi is looking out for what is in the best interests of India's economy and the opportunities available for the people of India. Similarly, President Trump is doing the same for the United States, our economic interests and the interests of the American people. So what I see as a great positive is that we have two leaders who have common sense and who are looking for good solutions. This direct dialogue happening at the very top in both of our countries, but also at the different secretaries and the cabinet members, is going to be key to lay down what that path forward really looks like. And I personally am excited because there's keen interest in the private sector here in India and in the United States to seek out those opportunities and to maximize them.
Ma'am, there's a lot of attention, of course, in the Asia-Pacific region for your visit here and the earlier port of call. I wanted to ask you, what is your assessment of the Chinese threat in the Asia-Pacific region, and do you see India as a key player to counter China?
You know, I've grown up in Hawaii and I've spent a lot of time in different countries across the Indo-Pacific region, and so understand at a deeply personal level the importance of this area for my country. And also, I think just as importantly, in understanding the complexities that exist within the histories of each of these countries, India and China, Vietnam, Thailand, the Philippines, the United States, of course. So what I appreciate about President Trump and his approach and some comments that I heard Prime Minister Modi make recently is they are very practical and they are pragmatic and are looking to strike that balance that will allow us to hopefully prevent any kind of conflict. Obviously, as it relates to China, there are challenges. There are also opportunities. And we have two leaders of two very important countries who will play a very central role in taking on those challenges, resolving issues where they exist, and also maximizing any opportunities. The goal, of course, that we all share is to achieve peace, to increase prosperity, and to ensure stability and security for both of our peoples, but in the region as well.
Ma'am, when you took over, there was a lot of attention to what people said that you were a sharp critic of US forever wars and regime change wars. But you also said, and I'm going to quote what you said, when it comes to the war against terrorists, I'm a hawk. How does the Trump administration see the repeated terror attacks?
Good evening, you're watching Brass Tacks with me, Zaka Jacob. Prime Minister Narendra Modi gave a 3-hour-long freewheeling podcast to American podcaster Lex Friedman. In the podcast, he talked about a range of international issues from dealing with Donald Trump to China, the border disagreements between Beijing and Delhi. He also talked about the Russia-Ukraine war and reiterated that India was one of the few countries in the world that is close to both Russia and to Ukraine, and that India is not neutral, as many people think it is, but it is actually on the side of peace, and that India is willing to embrace the role of a peacemaker. And this is important. The context to this is important because within the next 24 hours or so, we're given to understand that Donald Trump, the US president, who seems to be in a bit of a hurry to bring through some kind of a lasting peace between Russia and Ukraine, he is slated to have a phone call with President Putin of Russia. President Putin has rejected this 30-day ceasefire, which was announced last week between Ukraine and the United States at a meeting that happened in Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Putin says he is instead looking for something more long-term. But amidst all of this, the big revelation that happened was from the sidelines of the Raisina dialogue here in Delhi, where the Deputy Foreign Minister of Poland has claimed that it was Prime Minister Modi who had persuaded President Putin from refraining from using tactical nuclear weapons. You remember last summer there was this whole talk around the use of tactical nuclear weapons to try and force Ukraine's hand. The Deputy Foreign Minister of Poland, speaking to CNN News 18, has made this big revelation, this big assertion, which was previously not known. The question then arises is, what does this say about India's potential role as a peacemaker, this whole neutral stand that India has taken in this 3-year-long war, and is there any role now in this direct negotiation between Putin and Trump, where the Ukrainians are feeling left out, the Europeans are feeling left out? Is there any role that India can play to bring about peace in this 3-year-long war?
रशिया के साथ भी घनिष्ठ संबंध है, यूक्रेन के साथ भी घनिष्ठ संबंध है। मैं राष्ट्रपति पुतिन के सामने बैठ करके मीडिया को कह सकता हूं कि युद्ध का